In this lesson, we will look at environmental influences. Environmental influences support the nurturing side of the nature-nurture debate. Environmental influences include anything that's non-genetic. So we will look at the prenatal and infant environment and how that impacts our behavior, our early childhood experiences from our parents, peer influence, culture, and also gender. First of all, the prenatal environment is very important to proper development later in life. A mother has to take a lot of precautions when she is expecting a child, making sure that the child gets proper nutrients, staying away from anything that can harm the child, alcohol, tobacco, caffeine, too much stress, all of these things that are considered teratogens that can cross over the placenta and harm the child can have a profound impact on their thought process and also their behavior as they get older. Right after birth, it is very important that infants get a lot of interaction and touch from their caregivers. This enhances physical, cognitive, and social development. Immediately, this touch and interaction with the child will start to enhance brain development. Here you can see in the chart below, these were rats who were raised on the left here in isolation in what was considered an impoverished environment, removed from the mother right at birth, so being deprived of that touch. You can see that they had very little cognitive development, whereas the rats who still had that touch and stimulation and interaction, they had a much higher growth of neural connections and cognitive development take place. We also know that physical development is also relying upon this touch and interaction. They do what's called touch therapy in NICU units now. My youngest daughter was born premature. She was only 2 pounds, 6 ounces. And because nurses are very busy in the NICU and really don't have time to take that one-on-one interaction with the children, they had parents come in, if they had the time, to actually put their hands inside of the incubator and massage and touch the skin. After all, they couldn't be outside of that warm environment because if they shivered, they would lose weight. And the goal was to gain weight, being about 4.5 pounds, in order to leave the hospital. They find that parents who come in and provide this touch therapy, the children actually grow much faster than those who do not get the touch therapy and are able to leave the hospital a lot faster. In addition to physical and cognitive development, we also find that, and we'll talk a little bit more about this later on, social development is also connected to this touch and interaction. Children who are neglected and deprived of this interaction can be impaired socially later in life. They're more prone to negative behavior, aggressive behavior, getting into trouble, substance abuse as well. One disorder that is associated with a lack of touch and interaction and neglect is a disorder called reactive attachment disorder that we find in children. And as you can see, the cycle that takes place on the chart on the right, a baby has a need. The baby cries, wanting that need to be satisfied. The need is not met by the caregiver, and therefore they do not trust their caregivers. In many cases, these children, as they start to get older, become very distrusting, very manipulative, and very angry due to this lack of attachment and interaction that they were deprived of as a young child.
Are people afraid of you, Beth?
Uh-huh.
Who's afraid of you, Beth?
John.
Your brother. And why is your brother afraid of you?
Because I hurt him so much.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And At nighttime, what do your parents do to your door?
Lock it shut.
Why do they lock it shut?
Because they don't want me to hurt John.
Right. And they're kind of afraid of hurting John? Of you hurting John?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are they afraid that you might hurt them?
Yep.
Would you, Beth?
Mm-hmm.
When would you do it?
Nighttime.
Okay. Why would you do nighttime?
Because I don't like them seeing me do it. But they can feel me do it.
Mm-hmm. And what would you do to them, Beth?
Stab them.
Okay. What would you stab them with?
A knife.
The program you are about to see was compiled from the actual therapy tapes of Dr. Ken McGidd, a clinical psychologist specializing in the treatment of severely abused children. Children so traumatized in the first years of life that they do not bond with other people. They are children who cannot love or accept love. Children without conscience who can hurt or even kill without remorse.
I had a feeling I'd find you here. Here, Casey. Come on, here. What? No? Hey, it's over here. Nice, Casey. Good, Casey. Good, doggy. Here you go. Eat it. Yes. Nice, Casey. Good, Casey. That's it. Hey, little fella. Look what I got for you.
Oh, that's not so bad.
It's okay, Case. Take it easy. Yes, you.
Ah.
He bit me.
Well, we believe you, honey, but how did Casey get...
He bit me!
Catherine!
What's wrong?
He bit me! I hate him! I hate you! I hate you! I hate you! I hate you!
Hey, how about a kiss? What's the matter?
Nothing.
Let me see. Let me see. Pull your arm out. Come on. Come on. What's the matter? Oh, Eric. Who did this? Eric, tell me who did this.
My teacher.
So, Eric, shall we play a game? Good. I know that you're afraid to tell me who hurt you. But I think that it's really important that I know, because if it wasn't your teacher, then we don't want to hurt her feelings. So I'll just say some names, and when I say the name of the person who hurt you, you can just nod your head yes, okay? Okay. Was it, Grandma Barbara? Was it Daddy? How about Johnny or one of your other friends? Was it Casey? Was it Catherine? Okay, that's very good. That's very, very good, Eric. Thank you. Would you do me another favor? Could I see your stomach? Okay, sweetie. Let me see. Thank you, sweetie. Can I have a hug? Dear Lord, please help my heart and my voice heal, not hurt. Help this child to reflect thy loving spirit.
Mommy! Mommy!
In here, Cat.
What's wrong, Mommy? Mommy, what's wrong?
Eric showed me his bruises today.
I was going to tell you. His teacher did that. Isn't it terrible?
Do you guys want to go out to dinner or special hamburgers?
Special hamburgers.
You got it.
You want to help me set the table?
Sure. Daddy,
Oh, what is it?
can I go downstairs and play?
Sure you can, big guy. We'll call you.
Can I go too?
No.
Yes.
I thought you were going to help me set the table.
Is it all right, Mommy?
Sure, honey.
No! No! No, Cat! No! Stop, Cat! Please! Mommy, Daddy! Mommy, Daddy! Cat! Stop!
That's enough.
No!
God, Robbie's bleeding.
This has been coming a long time. I'm sorry.
We all do the best we know how.
Not always. Sometimes we hide behind regulations, which are there for a reason. If parents thought they'd be giving up their privacy along with their children, well, all I can tell you is what I saw with my own eyes.
Anything, please.
The house was filthy. There was garbage everywhere. The whole place reeked of urine. I could hear the screaming all the way outside. It was Catherine, 18 months old. She'd been tied to a table leg. She was lying in all the filth on the freezing kitchen floor, wearing nothing more than a little sunsuit, which was all caked with her own. Anyway, I picked her up and tried to comfort her, but she went stiff in my arms. And she would not stop screaming. I've seen some horrors in my time. Anyway, I walked through the whole house and there was no one there. It had been the mailman who had called when he'd heard all the screaming.
And Eric?
He was lying in his crib. His diaper hadn't been changed for days. His skin was infected. There was a bottle of milk lying next to him, except the milk was so sour it had curdled. And he had a strange bulge to his head. And I couldn't figure out what it was. Until I picked him up and noticed that the back of his head was flat. Apparently he'd been lying like that for weeks.
Where were the parents?
The mother was in the hospital. When I went to see her, she just stared. Never said a word. The nurses told me that she'd been beaten and that she had refused treatment for pneumonia. They said they thought she wanted to die. And she did.
What about the father?
All I can tell you is that he would take off and leave the two babies with their 13-year-old sister.
A sister? Do you think she would talk to him?
This is Jill Tyler. She'd like to talk with you.
Hi. I don't do women.
My husband and I adopted Catherine and Eric.
Oh, lucky you.
We want to find out what their life was like, what your life was like, what happened. Catherine's very disturbed. She hurts Eric. She tried to kill him. Please help us.
Lucky me. Drinks. For the ladies.
Stephanie, no one's blaming you.
You can blame who you want. I did what I had to. He'd get drunk and come in my room. And when I got bigger, I'd fight him. He'd beat me up. But I'd still fight him. And after I got to be more trouble than it was worth, that's when he'd go upstairs.
But she was just a baby.
What do you think I was? I can still hear her screaming. The dog going crazy. Except one night she stopped. I thought she was dead. So I snuck upstairs. Almost. He'd passed out. I had to roll him off of her.
This video shows one of the earliest stories revealed to the public that kind of made this disorder in the forefront and made people aware of it. This is about a girl in real life. Her name was Beth, and she was neglected and abused as a young child and was later adopted, her and her younger brother, by a preacher and his wife. They were not told by the social worker events that had occurred in the children's life. However, the mother ended up dying of pneumonia. The father was abusive and would leave the young children by themselves for several days at a time. And a mailman had alerted social services after hearing the children cry for several days when he was on his mail run. When authorities went in, they found Beth tied to a table leg, and she was, I guess, around 20 to 24 months of age, and her younger brother was lying in a crib nearby and had a bottle beside him that was so old that it had curdled. Anyway, Beth ended up developing a reactive attachment disorder. She started engaging in very negative behavior. She abused and hurt the family dog after she was adopted, and also would try to hurt her younger brother. The video will first show you an interview of Beth and her therapist. Children with this disorder can harm others and have very little remorse or care, kind of like a sociopath would. Then the video will go into the Lifetime movie that was made of Beth's story called Child of Rage. In the movie that was made of her, they call her Catherine, or Cat. In the last lesson, we looked at behavior traits that we seem to get from our genes, such as personality, intelligence, interests, fears, and temperaments. So how do the people who raise us and interact with us on a daily basis influence us as we get older? Well, we find that our caregivers have a strong impact on our morals and our values, and also our religious preference or our faith. Also, our value of education, whether or not we believe that education is important or not. For example, in my home, it was, what college are you going to? In other homes, it's, are you going to college or not? Politics also tends to be influenced by those who raise us. All of these values, faith, politics, and education come from our nurturing. These are not things that you are born with, obviously. As children start to enter into middle school and go through puberty and into adolescence, parents take a back seat on their influence, and peers start to become more important. Children start to alter their behavior in order to fit in with different groups that they tend to admire. The book talks a lot about smoking as being a negative peer influence. Most people who smoke pick up the habit in their adolescent or early college years. It's very unusual for a woman or a man in their 40s to pick up that bad habit. Another influence on our behavior is the culture in which we live. A lot of our behaviors stem from where we're raised. For example, in some cultures, people bow when they greet. Some people kiss. Some people shake hands. In the United States, we are very fast-paced, so a lot of people eat at fast food. In other countries, people take hours to eat. It's very relaxing and interacting and more of a social time. So a lot of the behaviors that we have come from the culture or regions in which we live. Social norms are unwritten rules on how we should behave. These aren't really written down anywhere, but people tend to abide by them. For example, when you're in a quiet place like a library or a movie theater, you're not going to talk loudly on your cell phone or have conversation to disrupt others. That's just a social norm. Whenever you are out in public, you do not pass gas. That's some unwritten rule, again, that we follow. When you get on an elevator, everybody gets on. It's a very awkward situation. You get on, you all turn around, and nobody talks, and you look at the door. In our culture, if somebody's coming towards us, we walk to the right. We move to the right. And that's because we drive on the right. In other cultures, they move or walk to the left. We feel very uncomfortable when we violate social norms and we go against these unwritten rules. In the next video, on the next slide, I want you to watch a series of clips from Seinfeld, which every episode is basically about breaking a social norm.
So let me get this straight. You find yourself in the kitchen. You see an eclair in the receptacle, and you think to yourself, what the hell, I'll just eat some trash.
No. It was not trash.
Was it in the trash?
Yes.
Then it was trash.
It wasn't down in, it was sort of on top.
But it was in the cylinder.
Above the rim.
Adjacent to refuse is refuse.
It was in a magazine, and it still had the doily on.
Was it eaten?
One little bite.
Well, that's garbage.
But I know who took the bite. It was her aunt.
Well, you, my friend, have crossed the line that divides man and bum. You are now a bum.
Little? What do you think, Jerry?
Well, this is it. The food is atrocious, but the busboys are the best in the city. May I take your coat, miss?
Yes, thank you.
Both times I've seen her, she's worn the same dress.
Are you okay, Jerry? You seem quiet.
God's name is going on here? Is she wearing the same thing over and over again? Or does she have a closet full of these like Superman? I've got to unlock this mystery. Ah, so this is the Fortress of Solitude.
Well, I guess I'll go change.
Yes, change. By all means. Change. August 17th, 1992. The same dress. She never changes. Oh, my God.
Hey, isn't that George's father?
Oh, yeah, it is. Should we say hello?
I've never seen him in Manhattan before. It's weird. It's so out of context.
That man he's with. Is he wearing a cape?
I believe he is wearing a cape.
Why is Mr. Costanza with a man in a cape?
Well, it is good cape weather. Cool, breezy.
Why a cape? Who wears a cape? Where do you even get a cape?
You're right. It is strange. In fact, let's cross to the other side of the street.
What'll we do?
Yeah?
It's us.
Come on up. It's Elaine. You don't have a problem with her, do you?
We adore Elaine.
She wants to say hi. She's with her new boyfriend.
What's he like?
He's nice. Bit of a close talker.
A what?
You'll see. Boy, I really had no idea that you felt this way about the Costanzas.
They're exhausting. It's like being in an asylum.
This is Erin.
Hello, Erin.
Hello, Aaron. So how long are you folks in town?
3 more days, and then we're off to Paris.
We're going with the Select Charter Group. I love France. I was just there last year. In fact, you know, I still have an envelope full of French francs. I'll give them to you.
Well, we can't take money.
Oh, no, it's a gift from us.
Oh, that is so nice, Erin. Isn't he nice? So listen, has Jerry been showing you a good time?
No, I haven't.
You know, I have a friend who works at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. How'd you like a behind-the-scenes tour?
Really? You could do that?
Easily.
It wouldn't be any trouble?
Of course not.
When could we go?
How about right now?
I'm ready. Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, let me get my coat.
Elaine, what do you say?
Well, I don't think so, Erin. I have plans.
Oh. How about you, Jerry?
I'm swamped.
Sure. Could examine the artwork up close.
Maybe I'll try and catch up with you.
I know that'll happen.
All right, we're off.
Okay.
Bye. Let's go.
Okay, bye-bye. Have a good time.
Bye.
See everybody later.
Okay.
Bye.
Memes are ideas or fads or fashions that are passed on from generation. Sometimes they fade, sometimes they resurface. For example, the Rubik's Cube. The Rubik's Cube was very popular in the 1980s when I was a child. They kind of went away for a while, but I see that they're back. Fashion would be a great example. You had the poodle skirts in the 50s, the go-go boots in the 60s, the polyester plaid pants in the 70s, the leg warmers in the 80s, and the crazy hair. All of these are different memes. Planking was something that was very popular not so long ago, and that would be another example of a meme. Although many social norms are quite different in different countries and different cultures, we do share some similarities worldwide. In every culture, people smile to show happiness and greet one another. And we also, in every culture, like that buffer zone or personal space around us. Most people don't like others to invade that or get too close.